Okay, we now move on to our best paper, which is going to be presented by Jessica Korzeniowska. Jess is a systems engineer at the UK AEA, and she's previously worked on remote maintenance systems for future nuclear fusion reactors and is currently requirements manager for the Eurofusion Demo power plant program. And she also created the award-winning Year of Systems Engineering program at the UK AEA and founded the International Systems Engineering Infusion Network. So, welcome, Jess.
Thank you very much. Right, I have a fair amount of faff, so give me a minute. I brought snacks. Okay, hi, my name is Jessica Korzeniowska, and like we said, I'm a systems engineer at the UK Atomic Energy Authority, which is the UK's, I forgot the clicker, the UK's fusion research lab, and I'm also the creator of the transformation program that I'm here to talk to you about today. I don't think the full title of the presentation was put in, so everyone's like, what's the hot seat? So it's really Systems Engineering in the Hot Seat, a year-long transformation program to bring systems engineering to the hottest place in the solar system. Which is fair enough why that wasn't put on the full proceedings. But thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to share with you what we were able to achieve over the course of the year, and I hope that it'll inspire you to go do similar in your own organizations. This is the story of how, over the course of a year, we completely changed the face of systems engineering culture at UK AEA. We started from a point where systems engineers were walking into a room and everyone was asking, why are they here? Maybe that resonates with you. But now people are asking, oh, where's my systems engineer? Shouldn't I have one? And how can I get one? As a result of the program, we've seen a huge increase in demand for systems engineering resource. We've received incredible feedback, not just internally, but from external collaborating partners, and other departments on site are now looking to run similar programs, having witnessed the success of ours. The program itself was called the Year of Systems Engineering. And if you're wondering about the other part of our title, UK AEA is home to JET, which is the Joint European Torus Fusion Experiment. When it's operating, JET runs at temperatures 10 times that of the sun, thereby officially making UK AEA the hottest place in the solar system. Thank you very much. So to tell you the full story of how we did indeed bring systems engineering to the hottest place in the solar system, this presentation today will cover a bit of context and where we started this journey from, elaborate a bit more on the need, explain what we actually did over the course of the year, how it was received, and how you can run your own Year of Systems Engineering in your organization using some of our lessons learned. But just to introduce myself a bit more formally, before we get going, I've been at UK AEA nearly 4 years, and before that I was a systems engineer at the European Space Agency. And Jason Joannou, my co-author, unfortunately can't be here today. He's the systems engineering group lead at UK AEA, and he was responsible for securing funding for the program and was a great cheerleader for it for the whole year. So it's a shame he can't be here, but he sends his regards. Let's get started taking a look at our context. The first thing to note is that UK AEA has been around a very long time, and but primarily as a scientific research institute. And we are really good at engineering to support big science. So maintenance and operations engineering with some of the best maintenance and robotics engineers in the world, and people come from all over to seek out expertise. But in the last few years, we have changed our mission dramatically, and we're now looking at becoming a much more delivery-orientated organization. And you can see our overall mission, I've just flashed up here, has this phrase, lead the commercial development of fusion power. And again, down here we have STEP, which is one of our new, shiny new flagship fusion reactors. And again, they're looking at it being commercially viable. We're moving away from engineering to support big science, like on JET, which is purely an experiment, and we're moving to engineering to support product delivery, like on STEP, which is a reactor that will actually produce power. This is a seismic shift, and it's really meant that the organisation has needed to change its approach. And obviously, sat talking to a room full of systems engineers, you have just the thing for delivering complex projects. So you're all sat there thinking, oh, I know what you could use. And this was recognised, or the need for systems engineering was recognised at the top level at UKAA as well. So about 7 or so years ago, the systems engineering group at UKAA was started, and we now have 20 systems engineers deployed in all sorts of projects across the organisation, and getting on with doing some great systems engineering. And our vision as a team is for systems engineering to be core to the way that UKAA do engineering. And we're realising this by focusing on 3 main areas: training and engagement, and my friend Mark hates me putting up this picture of him, but never mind, he's not here. Tools and processes, and resource. Now, before the year of systems engineering, we were really only focusing on this resource aspect here, and we had really good systems engineers deployed in projects doing really good systems engineering. But we were finding a lot of challenges in doing that. Primarily, like I've said before, people didn't even know why we were in the room. And even if there was this top-level understanding that having systems engineers was a good idea, in the projects it was a bit more like, oh, I guess you're here to do requirements. Okay, off you go. Bye. So it wasn't really very, we were really finding that we were having very limited impact. Similarly, we were also struggling to work on this tools and processes aspect, often because we were left out of discussions about top-level engineering management or processes at UKAEA, again, just from a lack of understanding that people didn't really know that we should be there. And the training engagement side, a little bit had been done on this, but it hadn't really been sustained, and there were many different reasons for that. But it became increasingly clear that by focusing on the training and engagement piece, it would help us unlock, or it was the key to unlocking the issues we were finding in the other 2 areas. Ultimately, we needed to solve this problem of people not knowing why we were in the room. Oh no, that's fine. We needed to engage more with the organisation as a whole. We needed to shout about what we could do, how it could be useful, and we needed people to engage with us and involve us in those conversations, and maybe even to see for themselves the benefits of even applying very basic systems tools in their day-to-day work might have. And we were hoping that in doing this, we would remove some of the barriers we were facing. So the barriers were just the classic ones. Systems engineering is put in a corner to do their work. It's completely separate and siloed. In our case, often people in the project didn't know that we were actually doing any systems engineering at all. And the full positive impact that applying systems engineering has, looking at it from that big picture, was not being realised because we weren't able to be part of the big picture and fully integrate ourselves with projects. Not only that, the eventual dream was to roll out formal systems engineering process at UKAEA, but given the state of things, there was no way that these would really land without people understanding why they were important and why they were needed. So we needed a way to soften the ground for when we wanted to start formally embedding systems engineering. And after consulting with the team at length about the many challenges and the things we had tried before and why they hadn't worked, there was a proposal for an engagement program developed. And it had the following mission: to equip and empower everyone working on projects across all disciplines at UKAEA with the tools and basic level knowledge to use systems engineering in their day-to-day work. I'm quite pleased with that, it sounds quite grand. And under that, what we were hoping the program would result in was really looking at this increased awareness piece, not just from technical staff, but non-technical as well. Getting technical staff to actually start using tools and techniques in their day-to-day work, and therefore starting to see the benefits for themselves. And we were also hoping it would, maybe not straight away, but lead to better systems engineering practices at UKAEA, and more consistency in approaches. Just by nature of, as a group, we would have to decide what our line was before going to educate the rest of the organisation was, and so we'd get that consistency going. Lastly, we were hoping to be very sneaky about it and get valuable intel about where people were using systems engineering that we weren't plugged into, and understand what different pain points were for people, and feed that all into developing our formal processes. Thus, the Year of Systems Engineering was born, and it was a 12-month program, a suite of activities, events, workshops, each catering to a different need for systems engineering knowledge. There were 3 elements to the program. And, there was a systems engineering mini-site on our intranet. There were events in the form of forums or drop-ins. And lastly, there were workshops. And these were each catering to a different kind of scenario where you might find yourself in need of some systems engineering knowledge. So the intranet mini-site, for example, that's for somebody sat at their desk. They just have a quick systems engineering question, or they want to refresh something that they learned in a formal training course. And they can go online, access video guides, templates, links to external resources, and also post questions on discussion boards or request systems engineering resource. Monthly events are for people wanting to go a bit more in detail and get more discussion going around systems engineering topics. So these would either be a forum where we'd have a presentation from an internal or external speaker on any systems engineering topic at all, or it would be a donut drop-in. And the plan for these was that the systems engineering team would stand outside the canteen with trays of donuts, entice people in, and very simply, if you asked a question, you got a donut. And some of you are now looking at those going, hang on a second. Doing it this way would enable us to have discussions with people who wouldn't perhaps turn up purposefully for events and be able to reach more people. Lastly, workshops were very specific targeted training sessions, and they would be requested by teams who needed to learn how to do something and do it well on their own. And by the end of the year, the plan was we'd have this beautiful training portfolio of all these sessions we could roll out at a moment's notice. I've built all these resources for ourselves. We'd previously run a pilot graduate training course as well, and updating this with with the feedback we got from the pilot also fell under this. That was the plan. Bearing in mind that we wrote this proposal between January and March 2020, with an aim to start June 2020, would anybody like to hazard a guess what happened? I'll give you a clue. It starts with C, and it ruined everyone's life. So not only did the whole program have to move online, but we were faced with this additional challenge of having to make it even more engaging, because everyone is sat at home isolated, we're miserable, and we've all got a massive case of Zoom fatigue. So how on earth are you going to get a topic that people don't really want to hit anyway across to them in those kinds of conditions? We also couldn't rely on actual donuts. We couldn't train the graduates in person with Lego and drones that we'd done before. And there was certainly no peer pressuring of colleagues to come down to this cool talk at lunchtimes. So we had to have a bit of a think and decide whether or not to run it at all, and if we did, how would we do it? And in the end, we did decide to go ahead with it and just move fully online for the time being until we went back to the office. Lol, the whole thing was online the whole time. But actually, the realization of it didn't seem that different. We definitely had to get a little more inventive in how we were getting our message across, but when we finally ran it, it looked a little something like this. We still had our 3 main elements. So we have the intranet, we have exciting forums and events, we have training over here. But if you look a little bit closer, you'll see things like video guides made with smartphones at home. The Grinch down here, because it felt like Christmas had been stolen already, a sort of group team event helping to design or create a Christmas stealing system, and then welcoming our external speakers online rather than in person. And our graduate training started to look a little more magical to try and hold their attention for 3 whole mornings online. Just to say, though, that actually remarkably, I think going online allowed us a level of excitement and fun that I'm not quite sure would have been possible in person. And that is something that sort of became the brand of Year of Systems Engineering, is it was fun, it was exciting, and that's part of why it did so well and people were so engaged. So I'd like to tell you through each of these elements a little bit and tell you what worked well and what didn't work so well, but just some summary numbers for you overall. So we had about 70 people on average attend our forums, 30 people on average at drop-ins, 83 graduates and placement students were trained over the course of the year, reaching all through the organisation. We had 5 external speakers, one of those was international, and I owe the good, patient people of UKAEA 60 donuts, and they remind me of this at every opportunity they get. Let's take a look first at our intranet mini site. This went mostly as planned because it was always going to be online, and we uploaded resources, templates, and links over the course of the year. It was accessible to everybody, as we'd hoped, and people in the systems engineering team could easily direct someone who had a quick question to, oh, here's a resource over here, here's this to help you. So it was saving them time and as well lending us towards that consistent approach because everybody was learning from the same video or using the same template. We could upload recorded forums. I'll say in a minute, those were the most successful part of the program, and it meant people could catch up from the mini site. It also means that we're able to reach more people now, long after the event. So, we're even new starters and graduates, we're saying, oh no, go watch this session that such and such gave. It's really great and it'll help you with this problem you're having. So able to reach so many more people. What didn't go so well was it was very time consuming to create original content, and we struggled to do this towards the end of the year. So we were relying a lot on external resources, and we weren't able to tailor them to the organisation in the way we would have liked, which was why we'd wanted to create our own. People are funny, and also they would still go to a person first, even though we'd made this beautiful intranet site for them where they could just have their question answered so easily. And this might have been preference of speaking to a human, maybe, having a friendly face attached to your question, or maybe we just didn't do enough advertising of the intranet, but that was a bit of an odd one. There was also very little engagement on our discussion boards and requesting resource online. Again, people just got in touch with a systems engineer that they knew. So overall, not much change to the plan for this. It worked pretty well, and we got a good insight into how people like to get their systems engineering knowledge. Moving on to forums. These were absolutely the most successful part of the year. They were absolutely fantastic. They kept momentum and excitement going. The external speakers we had were so popular. We had off-the-chart attendance for each of them. And those were really fantastic, not just for attendees, but also the systems engineering group, because we could connect with other organizations, learn from where they were in their systems engineering journey, and talk to them about similar challenges we were maybe having. Just a note to say that a huge thanks to the speakers who gave their time to come and present. We had speakers from Animal Dynamics, Eurofusion, Optima, SA Group, and also Martin Baker Aircraft. And without them, there would have been a huge valued chunk of the program missing. So thank you so much to them. We also found that themed months worked really well. So in September, we had Requirements Month. Woohoo! And this centered around a forum that was coming at the end of the month. Everybody knew it was on the way, so they were building up their questions. Every week, we were releasing new resources, templates, help guides, and this built up some hype around requirements, would you believe it? But also enabled us to get a particular insight into what people were thinking and what people were doing with regards to their requirements work, because we weren't plugged into everything. And it also gave a good focus for attendees. We chose requirements because that's something that people at UKAEA are doing all across the board. So it was a good trial for a themed month. Speaking of themes, we also had themes for our donut drop-ins. These did change, so instead of standing outside the canteen with donuts, we had an online Teams drop-in session. We had a theme each month, and experts from the systems engineering team came in to answer questions. And it didn't seem to put people off that we weren't giving out donuts, I have to say, actually. We grew a dedicated following that attended each drop-in, with other people attending in between. We were asked questions on real work, which sounds a bit of a silly thing to say. Of course, we were asked questions on work people were doing. But it enabled us to have great, useful discussion and identify where more support was needed in projects, or what we could do as a team to provide more guidance on certain areas. Also, towards the second half of the year, purely from me accidentally clicking a different button on our internal messaging system, funny how things work out, we started to get attendees from collaborating institutes like Fusion for Energy, the ITER power plant in France, and in chatting to them and answering their questions, we found we were facing a lot of similar challenges all across the fusion industry. And there was this fantastic opportunity for collaboration, knowledge sharing, continuing this conversation, and continuing to learn from each other. So that led to us setting up the Systems Engineering and Fusion Network, which I'll elaborate a bit more on later. In terms of what worked less well, because we weren't in person and we weren't stood in a very accessible area on site, and it was online, it meant that only the people who wanted to be there were there. So we did miss out on that aspect that we'd hoped to get from running these kinds of events. It also meant there was only one conversation for the whole group, and we did try to encourage breakout conversations, but people weren't so fussed. So it did mean that people learnt sort of bonus content. They got questions answered that they hadn't even come answering, and it did lead to some good discussion. But it meant we could answer fewer questions than if it was one-on-one at a lunchtime. In the open setting as well, although we did make it very clear we didn't record these, it was a safe space, it may have been quite difficult for people to have honest conversations about particular project challenges and, of course, about commercially sensitive work. So these looked really quite different. But many of the individual success stories from the year of systems engineering came out of these online sessions where people asked a question, went away and applied it to their real work and had these great benefits. And I've got a quote later on from somebody who this exactly scenario happened to. Lastly, workshops. Unfortunately, the workshops element was one that we really struggled to fulfill. And this was almost entirely down to time and budget restraints. The other elements of the program took up way more time than expected, and as these were on an asked-for basis, and we sort of, teams will ask us when they would like one, they were the first things to unfortunately be put aside. So we didn't end up having this beautiful portfolio of training that I wanted at the end, but never mind. That said, the program built us a reputation such that now, long after it's finished, we're getting requests from teams to come in and say, could you just come and talk to us about that? Could you just come and just give us a little bit on, just last week actually, I ran a training session with our chief engineers on how they should review requirements and giving us some pointers on that. So it built us this reputation that means that people know they can come to ask us. So it might be a little less formal than portfolio of training, but we're getting there. However, as part of this, we were able to prepare version 2 of the graduate training course as hoped and deliver this 3 times over the course of the year to 2 graduate cohorts and 1 summer placement cohort who actually asked for it after hearing how much fun the graduates had had. I was so proud. The new virtual course, Adventures in Systems Engineering, is a fully interactive Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, choose your own adventure type course. And it has been a huge success, not only with the graduates, but also there have been requests from others in the organisation to run this course for them. And I have said, you do realise what kind of course it is? And they're going, yes, please, we'd still like to have it. So the adventurers must travel up and down the sides of a valley, while defining, designing, and testing a remotely operated vehicle to save a village of cursed village of elves up here. And they have some help from the good witch of systems engineering, who they're absolutely convinced turns out to be evil. She does not. And they also have a terrifying boss battle towards the end, which, believe me, none of them see coming, and it's entertaining every single time. And then they also meet some other familiar faces along the way. You can probably tell, given that I'm beaming and I'm getting super into this, that this was a personal highlight for me, because we were able to enthuse and inspire so many graduates to go away and use systems engineering in their work. And also I got to wear a cape to deliver the whole thing, which is career goals. So that wraps up nicely everything that we did throughout the year, what worked well, what worked less well. But how was it received by the wider organisation? Thankfully, the short answer was incredibly well. At the end of the year, we sent out a survey to participants and asked them to rate their perceived level of systems engineering knowledge before the programme and after. And before, you can see it's quite spread out. There's not, it's quite heavy towards the lower ends. Nobody's feeling very confident at all. And then after the programme, we have this shoot up at around 7. And this graph makes my heart sing, because this is exactly what we wanted. And if you think back to the core mission that we had, was give everybody a baseline level of systems engineering knowledge, that's what we've got here. And luckily, I'm still in a job, because nobody really has said that they're 10 out of 10 can absolutely do it on their own. Thank goodness for that. We also asked, have you experienced any changes in systems engineering culture at UKAEA since June 2020, when we started the programme? And summarising some of the responses we've got for you here, we've got more awareness, both personally and in projects. The need for requirements and systems engineering support has been taken more seriously in some areas. Project management and leaders have been more willing to use systems engineering techniques. And just a pause on this one, because before the year of systems engineering was even thought of, when we ran the pilot course for the graduates, some of the feedback we were getting 6 months later was, oh yeah, well I was totally convinced, but I went into my project and I said, hey, let's write some requirements, or hey, let's do some architect or something. And my project manager or lead engineer went, no, we don't need to do that. And they were finding they were quite stuck. And even though they were convinced and they'd learned the stuff and wanted to use it, they weren't able to, because we didn't have that buy-in from the people above them. So this, again, really, really pleased to see, because we're starting to meet in the middle of people on the ground, not just graduates, but design engineers, all of this, meeting those, the top leads in the middle, and everybody's using systems engineering, and obviously it's all fabulous. Lastly, a bigger presence of systems engineers. Thank goodness for that, because we were always there, and now people actually know. So that's a relief. Our systems engineers also, we asked for their feedback as well, because part of this program was to make their lives easier, so it seemed only fair to ask them what they thought. And they found that they actually definitely felt a difference. There was definitely more awareness. They were being better received in projects. We were all feeling that we were having more requests for support come in, and the information that we were giving people was making their lives a little easier. So instead of someone going, oh, please write my requirements for me, okay, bye, people are going, oh, I've written something, can you check it? I have a particular question on this, could you help me with this? And it was making our lives so much easier. We also had some very flattering feedback from people that I just would like to share with you now. And this is from Addy, who was a mechanical design engineer who came to one of the drop-ins. I can't remember his exact question, but we had a big discussion about it. He went off and applied it. His project was thrilled, our customers were thrilled, and he had this to say. A year of systems engineering has been a phenomenal forum to discuss and learn about systems engineering topics. The discussions are extremely beneficial and tailored for participants. We've been able to use lots of lessons learned from the forum on a key project with wonderful results, or incredible results, which is absolutely wonderful. But I have to say that my favorite piece of feedback we received was actually, I now talk about requirements so much that people have started to ask if I have a systems engineering background. Taking a look now at some of the impacts the year had, first within the organisation. This is quite a long list, but we'll go through it quickly. So we've mentioned an increased demand for resource. There's an increased interest in systems engineering training, people asking to sit the Adventures course, some people saying, I don't think that's quite for me, could you run another course? And that's fine. We've had the requirements working group set up to examine making things more consistent across the organisation. Graduates and placement students, after sitting the course, actually requested secondments and placements in the team, which was just amazing. We were able to identify collaboration opportunities with other departments to work together to embed systems engineering in what they're doing. Other groups are looking to run their own similar programs, so the safety group have approached us, and I think maybe they also felt sometimes a bit overlooked, or people think, oh, the safety team. So they want to do the same and have people enthused and excited about what they do, rightly so. Lastly, also, the programme actually won the UKAEA Chief Executives Award 2021 for raising the profile of systems engineering. And it made waves with us and other partners at Eurofusion, who are a big body that we work with. And this award also led to a meeting with the CEO, purely from me going, hi, thanks for the award. Do you have a minute to talk about systems engineering? And he said yes. So we've actually been able to have a chat about long-term vision for UKAEA and the systems team and how those can support each other and align. More on that later. I got more than I bargained for, let's put it that way. Looking a little wider now, I have alluded to that we were able to start conversations with lots of fellow fusion industries or fusion companies in the industry through them turning up to events. And we really wanted to continue that conversation. It seems so simple, just to talk to each other, but there we go. Different countries, different projects, it's sometimes difficult to have those lines of communication. So we set up the Systems Engineering Infusion Network, and so far we have 11 organisations represented in that so far, and this is kind of like the child of the Year of Systems Engineering. It looks kind of similar. There's an online area where people can chat and share, and we're having quarterly forums. And that's quite new. We've only had the first forum so far. If you'd like to join, you're very welcome. I can give you the email address afterwards. So it's taking what we've been doing and all this sharing of knowledge on an international scale. We're looking forward to seeing where that goes. Obviously, we got this paper accepted to a little thing called ASEC. Thank you very much. Also, thank you for the 2 awards last night as well. It's quite jammy now, really. But so thank you, because hopefully we can inspire some of you to go away and do your own programs in your own organisations, which would just be fantastic. We've also started to have some more formal collaboration with some external companies as well. AWE we've been speaking to so far, and we're hoping to have some knowledge sharing days in the future. Where next? This is possibly the most exciting bit. It also has no slides, because when I had to submit these slides, things were moving so fast that we didn't know what I was going to actually say here, which is great, but terrifying. We had this meeting with the CEO in September, and to talk about long-term vision for systems and the organisation. We had this very neat, tidy set of steps that are outlined in our paper, which I'm sure you've all read. And we were feeling, oh yeah, okay, this is a modest thing to ask, but okay, cool. It seems there's actually a much larger appetite for change than we had bargained for. And the CEOs asked us to go away and consider a proposal for not only how we could start to really embed systems engineering projects, but how we could apply a systems approach to all of UKAEA and do some requirements capture for the overall mission. So we walked out of that meeting a bit, oh, okay, but when the CEO asks you to do something, you're going to do it. So that's really exciting, and we're still putting together a proposal for what exactly that plan might look like, and we're consulting with key stakeholders in our organisation. The steps that we've put in our paper are still relevant, that we put them in there for a reason. The team really sees the need for them, and it's what we learned from the programme. Those will still happen, but they are possibly going to be smaller stepping stones to this absolutely huge task that I have landed myself. Wonderful. But we shall move on to your turn and how you can run your own year of systems engineering. What do you need? Really, you only need a dedicated champion, someone to drive the program, and budget and time commitment from your organization. It's really essential to have someone to drive it, even though it should and is a whole team thing and everybody participates as much as they can. You need that person to keep driving it. Yes, this is a picture of me working at home in my yoga pants because I really ran this whole program from my spare room with a laptop and a LinkedIn account over the lockdown. And I just include that to say, if that's all you need, you can run one too. So please do, that would be fantastic. But a little more concrete, rather than just, yoga pants and a cup of tea. Some more additional lessons learned that might be helpful to you in what we learned over the year. Firstly, external speakers. These were absolutely crucial to the success of the program. People coming in, removed from in the weeds of Fusion, nobody can argue about specific technical details about what we're working on every day. Coming in, showing their use of systems engineering on whatever they're doing was so effective at engaging staff. They were the most talked about things. The guy from Martin Baker actually couldn't finish his talk because people were asking so many questions. And it just was just seeing people get so excited. It was like, oh, okay, what have we created? But it's fantastic. So really, really, really external speakers, absolutely crucial to the success of the program. Clear visibility of the team, also massively important. It's really important to remember that this is not just about promoting systems engineering, but promoting your systems engineering team. And because it became more and more apparent that people want to go to a person with a question, you need to find some way to allow that, and so people know who to go to. So when this started to become clearer, we ran a forum which was like a cross between a speed dating and show and tell kind of thing. And the systems engineers had 3 minutes to explain what projects they worked on, what they did, something funny about why they're in systems engineering or why they like it. And we went through all the systems engineers like that. And suddenly everybody at the forum has sort of a contact list in their head of, oh, okay, this person has expertise in that, so I can go to them, I can go to them, I can go to them. And that worked really well. Going fully online had its pros and cons. It certainly made it more accessible to people, but building rapport with attendees was slightly harder. I still have never, so Addy, who I put the quote up here, we're best virtual pals. I've never met him in person, even though people were key players in the program. It was more difficult to spread the message to people who didn't actively show up to things. Like I said with the donut drop-ins, so we maybe weren't able to tap into that quite so much. If I was to do it again, I'd probably go for a hybrid approach, and some events more in person, some events just online as well. Engaging senior staff was something that, on reflection, we definitely could have done a bit better at. They were supportive, obviously, because we had that buy-in and we were given money and time, but their attendance and engagement with the actual program and turning up to events was quite low, just because everyone is so busy and there's other things to do. But targeting them specifically, maybe if we'd had a panel session and invited all of them to come and talk about why systems engineering is so important, I think that could have worked quite well, but it's something that we definitely struggled to do and could have maybe spent more time on. Lastly, time and budget. For the scope of the proposal at the beginning and to have the full range of workshops, to have original internet content, we needed more time and we needed more money. I mean, that's always the way, isn't it? But this whole program, as planned, could have easily filled a full-time role. And we didn't necessarily appreciate that going in. With the time we were allocated in the ambitious proposal, it sort of increasingly became clear. But I'm still very proud of what we were able to do with the little bit of time we had. But moving forward, if somebody else was to do it, probably a full-time role. So those are our condensed lessons learned. But if you're interested in running a similar program in your own organization, I'd really love to talk to you. I'll be around the rest of the day. I also had business cards printed specially, so please come and get one. And if we can share anything else that might be useful to you in the future, please do get in touch. It would be absolutely wonderful to just see all these little programs springing up. Oh, it would just be fantastic. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, taking you through the year of systems engineering. Thank you so much for your attention, and thanks for having me. I'll now take questions. And of course, in the style of the year of systems engineering, there are donuts. Yeah. There's also vegan ones, if anybody, yeah, came from. Oh. I don't. These are the vegan ones. There you go. Oh!
3-second rule.
Any questions? Yes. Oh wait, do I choose or does somebody else choose? Sorry. Got a bit carried away there.
Don't worry about the donut. Liz Wright, Costain, I have a question. Obviously, your program was virtual. It was voluntary to engage with.
Mm-hmm.
How did you compete with the rest of the voluntary learning landscape that seems to go on in most organisations? Sort of inclusion, quality, safety.
Mm-hmm.
I could list them all.
Yeah. This is funny because on one of the events we had, the COO had an event at the same time and was like, oh, how many people are you expecting to get? And I was like, 70 people. And she went, oh, okay, I better change it. I changed the day. I felt a bit awkward shifting the CEO. That's where the external speakers really came in because it was so exciting. It was like, oh, systems engineering for ejector seats. And everyone's like, well, obviously, I want to see, videos of planes chucking out seats and people. So it was really about trying to make it sound as exciting as possible. There was some collaboration involved, so speaking to the EDI people and trying to make sure that we weren't on the same day. But I have to say, over the lockdown, it sort of seemed that tailed off a bit anyway, so maybe we just cashed in on a bit of a lull. But definitely making it very exciting and speaking to other people in the organisation. Did you get your donut in the end?
I can throw another one if it's a problem. So. Question first, then.
Damn it. Hi, Amelia Jeffson, ECF chair. But I should say, yeah, I think it was a really, really interesting thing to see how you blended all the different delivery mechanisms to try and get the systems engineering message across. And I was just wondering, certainly the workshops and things like that, do you see that being able to be expanded to other areas of things like STEM outreach and other initiatives like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. So do you mean like rolling out some of the things we did but using them as STEM outreach? Yeah. I mean, we could try the Adventures course with students. I feel like maybe they'd enjoy it. Yeah, in fact, a lot of so I have an outreach background and a science teaching background as well. So I was definitely thinking of how I would do that when I wrote some of these things. So I guess they could, as easily as I sort of merge them over to make them more suitable for grown-ups, she says, having worn a cape. But yeah, I don't see why they couldn't be moved back into sort of a more outreach and STEM kind of way.
Good morning. Yeah, still good morning. Great presentation. Thank you very much. Yatta Mystery from Northrop Grumman, UK. A lot of the challenges that you mentioned there, I think I faced, and I think many of us have probably faced in our organisations. Just something I wanted to ask you about is I run a number of systems thinking training sessions throughout the company to raise the awareness of systems thinking, systems engineering. I've ran them a couple of times. I think the first few times, I think the word systems alienated a lot of the multidisciplines. Mm-hmm. So I changed the name to It's All Connected, and that seemed to almost remove any prejudice or preconceptions as to what the session's about. But another area that I really struggled with, and we've spoken about it over the last couple of days, is inclusion and diversity. Once I changed the name it actually allowed more of the program management or women or diverse people within the organisation to join. Did you face any of the same challenges in terms of, I know you mentioned that you got 70, 80 people attending, which is a great number. Is there anything that we could have done to maybe increase that in the future as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think, okay, in some respects, we were definitely trying to sneak vegetables in and change names. But on the core basis of, yeah, this is systems engineering, I really wanted to be clear that that's what people were getting, because everybody kind of knew they had a problem with it. So it was like, this will help. This is what this is. And saying, yes, it is systems engineering, but here it is in an accessible, engaging way, where we start to use different terms and we start to be a bit careful about if we're going off on jargon, rants. Yeah, it was sort of a mix of both. But I did want people to be clear that, no, this is systems engineering. Oh, by the way, it's actually quite fun. Yeah. Did you get your donut?
Oh, I had it.
Oh, that's not how this works. Okay.
Yes, so I'm attending radioactive waste management, which is another sort of government research and development organisation undergoing quite a similar transformation, I think, to UK AEA.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to congratulate you, Jess, on what sounds like you've pulled off cultural change, which is really quite an extraordinary achievement.
Thank you.
I suppose I had a more mundane question, though, and that was how did the year of systems engineering interact with UK AEA's management system in terms of, presumably, there are some processes out there that pull up systems engineering processes and activities, and did it lead to better engagement and perhaps improvement in those as well?
Such a good question. And we were constantly asked, oh, so you're telling us this, but how does this fit in the list of acronyms for all the processes we use? To begin with, we were really careful to sort of say, this is guidance. This is not mandatory. This is what we encourage you to do when you are filling in these processes. But then people started to go, ask and ask again, well, yeah, but how does it fit in? How's it? And that actually gave us enough momentum to go to the people who have these processes and go, all these people would really like us to put some systems engineering in there. So here we are to help. So we did have to sort of toe that line a bit to make it seem like we weren't, getting people to do something completely different that wasn't a formal process. But one of our next steps and part of this whole process, and we've already started speaking to departments about it, is how we can work and put stuff into the processes. So it did open that up, just being a bit careful to begin with. Was that a bit rambly? Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Thank you for the donut.
You're welcome for the donut. Yeah, you did get a donut. Any more? Oh, my goodness, so many.
I think we have to. Our next session starts at 11. If you want any coffee, you're going to have to go. So, as Jess said, she'll be available. Grab her then. So we've got 10 minutes to grab a coffee, and then those of you that are coming back in here for plenary at 11, be in at 11, and those that are going elsewhere for other activities then. So please thank Jess for a fantastic talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.